Hello everyone! Welcome to another Overrated Film Saturday. I apologize this video is being uploaded late, but I've been fairly busy this weekend, so without further ado, let me address another Nicholas Sparks film that I thought would be interesting to talk about and I think is way overrated for what it is. I wouldn't necessarily say it is on the level of The Notebook in how it has been heavily emphasized within our media, but I will say that when it did come out, it seemed to make a significant amount of money, and not only that, but there were a lot of people that when I saw this movie went to go see it as well. Pretty much the entire theater, I'd say, was packed when I saw it, at least. And I'm not sure if it was opening night or not. I can't remember, but I don't think they had a midnight screening for it. But either way, I felt that there were a lot of people that came away with it enjoying it, and you could tell that there was the teeny bopper demographic that was in there in the theater. So yeah, I think this is one that is again not one of the standouts of Nicholas Sparks, but at the same time it is on that level of trying to bring in these same formulas, and I think it was the one that I think people at least recognized only because Zac Efron stars in it. So without further ado, let me discuss The Lucky One. Yes, The Lucky One. First part of this movie that really drags it down, especially when it's trying to be a romantic film, is the characters. My God, the characters are unbelievably bland. Like, there is no personality to any of these people, from Zac Efron to the leading lady to any of the side characters. Like, there is nobody here to really root for or feel like you identify with, because they just don't have a whole lot of personality to them. And I think this is definitely a huge problem that a lot of love stories / movies run into, is that they make the characters very bland. And so when you do that, it really drags down the film, because usually romantic pieces are dedicated towards characters and towards their development, or are dedicated to kind of the certain emotions and representations of beauty. And I don't think this film does the latter or the first thing that I mentioned all too well, partially because the characters are fairly bland, but I think that is a major issue, and they do try to set this up like this is in the real world, like this is in a real life setting, and they try to even play in with things that were supposedly going on during the time. I think it was trying to bring in some things that even Nicholas Sparks' books already brought in, like a significant amount of them do, and I'll be addressing that later on. But first things foremost, I needed to get out of the way into why I think ultimately this film is overrated, is that even though the characters are bland and that makes this film drag down, I think at the same time it pushes up the amount of market value for its demographic, because its demographic really doesn't care about the personalities of the characters. They just want to see some drama happen and, just be entertained that way. But I think when you don't have good characters to go through with you the plot, then it makes it really hard for, I think, people who are more invested within film to really appreciate it all too much. So, but again, the common everyday person, they would find this like so great, even though it's the characters don't really have a lot of weight to them. Another huge problem that Nicholas Sparks films have, including this one, is that they make the hero unbelievably perfect. Like, they make this person like unexistable, like unbelievably unexistable, and not like in a likable unexistability, just like on a level to where you don't feel like this person is human. You feel like this person is a robot who is programmed um, straight out of a love novel to, be the eye candy for the audience. And that character, I mean, specifically as the hero, is Zac Efron's character. But that's another thing that I think is important to emphasize because, again, it is one of those things where it appeals to the demographic, but it doesn't appeal um, to storytelling, to creativity, to any of those things. So that I think was a big problem that the film had, and also. Uh, in case you have not seen or have not heard of The Lucky One, basically Zac Efron's character is sort of like what you could consider a war hero. He goes, I believe it's to Iraq, either Iraq or Afghanistan, because this takes place in the modern age, and apparently he finds a picture that ultimately somehow saves his life. Again, I almost want to say fairly loosely, but at the same time, it's kind of thrown in there. It's very strange. But basically, he finds this picture, and it's of this one woman. And he is so awestruck because this photo saves his life. So he wants to go and find who is in the picture. And you might be wondering, how the heck is he going to find somebody who is in a picture without any idea of where that person lives, what their name is, what their address is? Well, in the background of the picture, there's a lighthouse, I believe. And he tries to find something that resembles that lighthouse. And he sort of goes from there, and he goes on this journey to go find this person that's in this one picture. And then he somehow manages to find her. Somehow manages. And this is a huge problem too with your plot. You put in too much conveniences in there. Especially if you're trying to tell something that's supposedly supposed to be real. It's very hard for an audience to take this seriously, like this would actually happen in the real world. If you make things fairly uh, uh, fairly convenient for the plot. That whole picture scenario thing, that definitely was a huge plot convenience, and just managing to find her is what made it even more of a huge plot convenience for this story to somehow be told. And yeah, I think that it was really stretching it, really stretching that, and I did not appreciate that it was trying to make something that, could only happen in probably the least amount of circumstances, like, hey, no problem, yeah, he found her, no problem. So yeah, that was kind of just odd to me, um, and and also just the fact that suddenly they're somehow meant to be like that's destiny, that photo just automatically means something, to me is just kind of very contrived, and that's kind of another thing that kind of bothered me about this movie. um but yes, that was definitely an issue. But people think when things are convenient, because yay, ooh, that could happen to me. It's like usually your life doesn't really work that way. But yeah, that was something that I think bothered me a lot. Every Nicholas Sparks movie, or at least the majority of Nicholas Sparks movies, have to have some kind of a jerk, or a male interest that is not wanted at the end. And in this case, he is an abusive jerk. I mean, this guy is just like, he's just nuts. I mean, this is not a character. I mean, and it's just crazy because you see how when Zac Efron does find the girl, she actually has some baggage because she has a kid from an abusive guy, and it's makes it even more harder to raise the kid and have this ex who is a little bit cuckoo. So yeah, that kind of gets into the mix. And to be honest, that was just to up the drama. That's what all it was meant to do. And that bothered me extensively because that did not need to be there. There did not need to be a villain. You didn't need to insert any, antagonist to go into the story. You didn't need to do it, movie, but they did anyway. And it severely bothered me. Um, I didn't understand why she needed to have a child. That was pointless to, like, why do you need to insert more when you don't really need to insert more in there? I mean, you could be totally fine with just kind of just, two people falling in love. You don't need to sprinkle it with all of these weird, bizarre complications that don't really add up to anything. And when they do, it is just for the sake of drama, and not really real drama, but just, fake superficial drama. So yeah, that bothered me too. And there's also that other thing of somebody dying. Usually in Nicholas Sparks films, death is inserted in a very, very melodramatic kind of almost awkward way. I mean, in this film, it's actually pretty awkward, especially how the villain, supposedly antagonist, the jerky dad, dies. I mean, that's probably the most insane Nicholas Sparks death I've seen in quite some time. But literally, he dies from a treehouse. I'm not kidding you. He dies from a treehouse. Um, I won't say how, but that's how he dies. And I thought that was just unbelievably stupid. They didn't need to have his character even there in the first place. You didn't need to have him have this whole story with her having a kid with this one other dude. You didn't need to insert it in their movie. There was no point. The only reason you did it was to up the ante and up the drama that is not needed. It's again like Frozen, inserting stuff that doesn't need to be inserted in the film, and takes away from the kind of originality and simplicity it could have, that would actually mean a lot more than inserting a ton of stuff that doesn't amount to much. Um, and man, is the chemistry between these two leads so just between Zac Efron and the leading lady, just it was so hard for me to watch. I was just like, okay, this is not chemistry at all. I don't see any of the cinematic quality um, of romance in there. Like, what are you trying to do, movie? Like, this is just ridiculous. But every time something, you know, you know, intimate was happening, there would always have to be like literally 40 girls within the audience who would just go, woo! And I would just think to myself, really? Really? You are wooing for these two bland, unoriginal, uninspiring characters. Wow. And for them to be together. Wow. And trust me, they got a lot of ab shots of Zac Efron, so way to play into your demographic, movie. Way to play into your demographic. So yeah, I felt like that there was a lot more physicality. Again, they do try to make it so that they sort of have some kinds of interactions at first, but it's just done in that Nicholas Sparks way that it doesn't come off as genuine. And I'm just sitting here going, man, what is going on? And why am I even watching this? And Yeah, it was hard to watch. That was hard to watch, the chemistry between the two leads, because they barely had anything. And also, when the Jerky McJerk in this movie would show up and he would get the crap beat out of him, everybody would be like, "Yeah, that's right, woo, look, go, jerk, yeah, woo, yay, woo, power, good wins." That's how they would react, the audience. And I'm just thinking to myself, oh, this villain is such a cardboard cutout of every Jerky McJerk we've seen over and over again about this abusive, crazy maniac. And then you wonder, why did this woman even have a child with him? It makes no sense. Um, and people don't just flip on a switch like that. Like, there some people, you know, I mean, most people, they show you who they really are. Um, I mean, yeah, people can get away with it for a certain amount of time, but I mean, to the point where she finally has a kid of his, and the fact that that they're still having issues and trying to have because they do like this whole custody battle kind of side plot thing in there too. Oh, it's just so unnecessary. It's so unromantic. Like, a custody plot for a child. Yeah, that's romantic. I totally want to go see a movie about a romance and see a custody battle fight go on. Yeah, that's so great. Yeah. And what a perfect example of romance, it just bothered me so much. I thought it was just so stupid to have an evil McJerk in this movie. I thought it was so stupid to give her a child that was his, that was the Jerky McJerk's, and I thought it was just completely unnecessary. It did not need to be in there. And basically, Nicholas Sparks at that point was throwing everything he could at the wall with all of his cliches, and none of them stick, none of them work, because he doesn't know how to execute them properly. So yeah, that was just that I just thought was annoying, especially when they would root for someone that, I mean, yes, it's justified. Then he gets his patootie handed to him, but at the same time, this person doesn't need to be in this movie. It's the same way that the guy from Frozen didn't need to be in this movie. It's like, let's bring in an evil man in. Yeah, let's bring that evil guy who had this kid with this chick, and we'll put in this whole plot of him wanting custody from her child, and Zac Efron being the actual real lover boy. That's basically, I mean, usually relationships, once you have a child with somebody else, usually you can't hold on to another relationship. It just doesn't work that way. And this movie tries to play it out like, yeah, this is totally something that could happen to any average Joe, across the street. It's like, no, no, that's not reality. It just doesn't work that way. Um, Usually that's just what ends up happening, because you just have too much drama, and this woman had way too much drama in her life. And there was no point in inserting drama with her, and still trying to play out this idea of, yeah, she'll get romance again. It's like, no, that's not how it works, movie. That's just not how it works. So yeah, that bothered me beyond all comprehension, because it was really playing to the audience, and it was saying, yeah, woohoo, go girl, and yeah, you fight this evil man. And yes, he was an evil jerk, but at the same time, why are you making this a love story then, if you're inserting poor Zac Efron, who could probably do a lot better than this movie? um so that's not to say Zac Efron's a really brilliant actor, but at the same time, I still felt like that this was pretty much a downgrade. But this actually was probably his last movie where he did kind of the sort of good, nice guy role. And then he went on to be a complete tool later on in his later films that you will probably see and know what I'm talking about if you look at his library. But yeah, but I can kind of understand that, especially since how bad and low brow of quality this movie is. Um, but another thing that I wanted to emphasize is that this film did make a significant amount of money. It made 60 million. I mean, that's still a pretty good chunk of money, and that's in profit. So it wasn't like huge, ridiculous box numbers that we at least see nowadays. But this came out, I believe, in the 2010s at some point, like earlier 2010s, maybe 2011, maybe 2010. I would guess 2010 or so. But it did come out around that time, and it still managed to garner a lot of money. And there was a lot of people that I saw that when I was in the movie theater went and saw it. It was pretty much a full house, and there was a lot of people clapping, a lot of people, hollering, everybody just getting so invested in this movie, and I'm just probably the only one sitting there going, wow, this is pretty bad. This is pretty low quality. I'm sorry, but this is just ridiculous. So yeah, so that's one of the reasons why I felt this one was a very overrated film, and I think it's the one that kind of got the ball rolling again for Nicholas Sparks to keep making more movies, um, because I think I think this film, The Lucky One, as well as The Vow, which I'm not sure if that was a Nicholas Sparks production, but I think it has the similar formula as the Nicholas Sparks production kind of, and adaptation. So yeah, it kind of, I think, got the idea rolling for putting out another film pretty much every year. Every one of these films comes out of Nicholas Sparks where, ooh, yeah, you can just tell that this is going to be a Nicholas Sparks movie. But I think this was one that did kind of get the ball rolling again. I think the one before that was probably Dear John, and that came out like when I was in high school. So it was some time until I think finally they started picking up steam again and releasing these films. Um, and The Lucky One was definitely one of them. And I was just so disappointed um, at how low and how just unentertaining and unengaging it was. It didn't bother me as much as maybe some other films that I've seen of romance bothered me, but this one was up there only because I just thought that there was just a lot of things that really didn't work, that didn't really add up, and I thought was ridiculous to insert. Like, I thought giving her a child and giving her this whole custody battle side plot was a stupid choice. I think, making their romance so conventional and so contrived, while at the same time making it beyond coincidental that, that they would be able to find each other, I just think is just ridiculous. Um, and I think that the characters are just so bland that they don't have a whole lot going for them as far as personality is concerned. So there was just a lot of problems with this movie, but the audience ate it up like it was, like it was the greatest thing in the world, and I didn't understand why, but they enjoyed it. And so I felt that because of that audience reaction, I thought, yeah, this film is definitely overrated. It is not of of quality. And again, I mean, I'm not saying all of Nicholas Sparks' works are completely horrible. I mean, yeah, Walk to Remember might be a little bit overrated and maybe one of the more films that's a little bit more emphasized, but at least with that one, it's not it's kind of harmless. It's not trying to be mean or demeaning, but I felt with this one, it was really trying to play this good versus evil, you know, evil abusive man who has child of woman, you know, inserted plot, while at the same time this woman is getting um getting another man in her life. I mean, I just thought it was just complete pandering to the audience, and that I did not appreciate that. So yeah, it did bother me extensively, and I felt like people really enjoyed it, and I personally thought it was horrible. That's just my opinion, though. Uh, but yeah, I think that's really all I can say about The Lucky One. But I think the reason why it is overrated is for the reasons that I've explained pretty much. In that I think the audience liked the fact that the characters were bland. I think the audience liked the fact that there was unnecessary drama. And I think the audience just liked the fact that there was coincidences and, oh, this is so magical, and, you know, oh, this is so great. And it's like, that's just not how that's just not, I mean, to me it just felt very contrived. It didn't feel magical. The magic was lost with its contrivance. Especially when it's trying to insert things that really are supposed to sort of be a part of real life. I felt that that just wasn't well done. But yeah, I think that's really all I can say about this film. But again, if there are any questions, comments, concerns, more than happy to answer them. I think that's really all I can say about The Lucky One. Just too much going on that I think didn't need to be there, in my opinion. But yeah, I think that's really all I can say. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care.